Hello, my name is Thomas McLean. I would like to discuss with you today Rob Wells, a fourth grade male student in Bowie Elementary School. We're discussing his informal assessment results. First of all, as far as the assessment itself, the skills that I chose to assess were his math skills, in particular addition and subtraction, and then some word problems, both addition word problems and subtraction word problems. The reason for this being most certainly his Y3 scores were very low in math, and so it made sense to start with that and to assess his math skills. Now, I had several different components in the assessment itself, and I chose to score them all separately, but to put them on just two sheets of paper for the student. But like that would be less confusing. So all the addition is on one page. There's 8 just plain 2-digit addition problems. Then there are also 3 word problems that are addition word problems. And then the subtraction portion is the same, 8 subtraction problems and then 3 subtraction word problems. Now the rubric, I put all the rubrics for those individual components on the same page. There's a rubric specifically for the 8 addition problems, for the 8 subtraction problems, and there are separate rubrics also for the 8 addition word problems, and the 3 addition word problems and the 3 subtraction word problems. So I assessed them all 4 differently, but then was able to just give him the assessment just on the 2 pages. I thought that would be less confusing for the child, and we could make sense of a 4-part rubric. Now, as far as the scoring on those rubrics, on the addition rubric and the subtraction rubric, both of those, mastery would be 8 of the 8 problems correct. And then 5 to 7 problems would be advancing, and then finally 4 or fewer correct would be basic, and basic is where we would definitely have to have further intervention for the student. And like I said, that's both for the subtraction problems and the addition problems. Now for the word problems, there's 2 different rubrics, a rubric for the subtraction word problems and addition for the subtraction word problems. Now the reason why, again, that I chose to do that is it did seem at first, at least from his file review, that addition was actually a strength of his, especially the 2-digit 1 and 2-digit addition, and that proved to be false, at least as far as this test, as my informal assessment gave. As far as the behavior of the student during the assessment itself, it was an interesting test, I will say. He's very distracted and very easily would look around the room and look at different things, would look back at me and try to engage me in conversation multiple times during the assessment, and I would simply redirect him back to the assessment itself. So he was a little wired that day, and I wonder if that had a bearing on his scores. But nonetheless, he did complete it all. He did it all. It just took him a little longer again because he insisted on being rather distracted and again attempting to talk to me throughout the assessment. As far as the scores on the addition portion, he only scored 3 of the 8 addition problems correct, which put him in the lowest category of my rubric. On the subtraction problems, he had the exact same score. 3 of the subtraction problems he got correct. And as I already discussed, one of the strengths that was mentioned in his file review was that he was good at 1 and 2-digit addition problems. And as it turns out, he got 3 of 8 and 3 of 8 subtraction problems correct. So I'm wondering if perhaps maybe if he was strong in those areas, if there wasn't a bit of regression for him, because at present it does appear that his addition ability and subtraction ability is the same, and both in need of intervention. Now, as far as the word problems, on both word problem sets, he scored in the basic range. On the addition word problems, he got 0 of 3 correct. And on the subtraction word problems, he got 1 of 3 correct. And the other interesting thing about his work, specifically on the word problems, he didn't show any work. I almost think that he was almost guessing on those word problems. And I have two hypotheses about that to discuss presently. The first one, perhaps it was a weakness of my assessment, which is something that I would have changed. I didn't ask him to show his work on those problems. I didn't specify that in the directions, and perhaps that was a weakness on my part for the assessment, and it's certainly something that I would have changed. Were I able to do it over again, I would specifically request or instruct that he were to show his work on those problems as well. But the other hypothesis of mine concerning the reason why he didn't show any work, perhaps he looked at word problems and numbers, words and numbers, and just guessed, and just didn't even make an effort. Most certainly, again, his on the Y3, word problems was one of the areas that was apparently rather low in the addition. It mentioned those in the Y3, that the whole battery of the math was low, but word problems was included in that battery of math assessment in the Y3 that was low. So I don't really know why he didn't show work, but I will assume that it was either my mistake in not specifying that in the directions, or it was just overwhelming for him and he just can't perform that task. Now, as far as his strengths, I find it difficult to find a strength for him in the math problems. In both sets of math problems, he got the first one correct, which was interesting, but after that it just kind of fell apart for the other 7 problems remaining. So again, I find it difficult to find any strengths for him. His weaknesses, he's weak in all of it, weak in subtraction, weak in addition, and the word problems, almost an inability to perform those completely. I did already discuss the effectiveness of my assessment. I feel like it's pretty generally correct. Certainly within the addition and subtraction problems, it is what it is. They're just addition and subtraction problems, and he did not perform all of those. I, again, could have done better in instructing that he was to show his work on the word problems, and that's certainly what I would have done differently on that. Now again, as far as correlation of results with his previous assessments, my informal assessment pretty well bears out the Y at 3 and the results found in it, that he's weak in math, and is very low in math. So again, at the end of the day, Rob has an intellectual disability, and he struggles definitively in math. But anyway, that's it for us today. I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. Bye-bye.